Secure Connections Uncovered, the podcast. Welcome to Secure Connections Uncovered. I'm your host, Diya. Today we're going to delve into the fascinating world of SSH security. Our topic for today is agent forwarding versus proxy jump security trade offs you need to know. Joining me on this journey is Mitesh, an expert in all things SSH and security. Mitesh, thanks so much for taking the time to chat with us today. Now, let's dive right in. What are the primary differences between agent forwarding and proxy jump?
Well, hello there, Diya. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Now, let's tackle this SSH security topic. I am excited to share some insights. So, agent forwarding and proxy jump are both techniques used to hop through servers via SSH, but they have different approaches, and that's where the primary differences lie. Agent forwarding is like having your own personal keychain for multiple doors. It allows you to use your local SSH agent, that's the key manager on your machine, to authenticate with remote hosts. So instead of entering a password or using a separate key for each server, you can unlock all the servers in a chain using just your local agent. On the other hand, proxy jump is more like hiring a bouncer who knows all the passwords. It's a feature where an SSH client connects to an intermediate host, that's the jump or proxy server, which then acts as a proxy for further connections. The beauty of this method is that it doesn't require any special configuration on the intermediate servers, they just need to allow SSH connections. Now, Dia, I'm sure you are wondering what are these differences in terms of security trade offs? Well, let me explain.
Aha moment. Oh, Mitesh, you've explained it so clearly. It sounds like agent forwarding is all about convenience and centralized management, while proxy jump is more about strategic delegation, I suppose. Now, let's get to the security trade offs. You mentioned earlier that there are differences in this regard. Can you tell us how does agent forwarding affect the risk of your local agent being compromised versus the risks associated with using a jump host as in proxy jump?
Great question, dear. Both methods have their own unique sets of security implications, so let's break them down. Agent forwarding: if someone gains access to your machine, maybe through a buggy application or a phishing scam, they could potentially compromise all the servers in your chain if you are using agent forwarding. That's because you've effectively given your local agent the keys to your entire kingdom. And if it falls into the wrong hands, well, that's not good. So, while agent forwarding can make life easier for you, especially when managing many servers, it also increases the attack surface of your local machine. It's like leaving all your doors unlocked because you don't want to carry around a bunch of keys. Proxy jump: with proxy jump, if an attacker compromises the intermediate server, they still can't access the final destination server without additional credentials. That's because the jump host doesn't have any sensitive information about the other servers in your chain. It just acts as a proxy for connections. But wait, dear, there's another risk with proxy jump. If you are relying on an external intermediate server, what happens if that server goes down? Or worse, if it gets compromised and starts acting maliciously? You could be unwittingly helping the attacker by routing your traffic through their controlled environment. So, in a nutshell, agent forwarding gives you centralized management but increases the risk of a single point of failure, your local agent. ProxyJump offers better isolation between hosts but introduces new risks related to relying on external intermediaries. It's all about weighing these trade offs and choosing the method that best fits your specific use case and risk tolerance.
The devil is in the details. Wow, Mitesh, you've really broken it down for us. I think our listeners will appreciate this nuanced view of the security implications. It sounds like with agent forwarding, we're essentially relying on our local agent to be secure and not compromised. And if that happens, all our servers are at risk. And with proxy jump, we're trading off some control and potential for external dependencies. But at least we've got an extra layer of protection in case one of those intermediaries is compromised. Now, let's talk about configuration best practices. How can users minimize the risks associated with using either agent forwarding or proxy jump?
Diya, you are absolutely right. It's all about minimizing risks and playing to each method's strengths. Let me share some configuration best practices for both agent forwarding and proxy jump. Agent forwarding. First things first, don't enable agent forwarding unless you really need it. It adds an extra attack surface, so keep it disabled by default. Use SSH keys with passphrases to authenticate your local agent. This adds an extra layer of security in case someone gains access to your machine. Be mindful of who has access to your local agent. Limit permissions as much as possible and don't grant unnecessary privileges. Consider using a dedicated user account for managing servers with its own SSH key. That way, even if your main account gets compromised, the attacker still won't have access to all your servers. Proxy jump. Choose jump hosts wisely. They should be trusted and well maintained. Regularly monitor them for any signs of compromise. Use timeouts and retries when configuring proxy jump. This helps prevent you from being stuck in an infinite loop if the intermediate server goes down or gets compromised. Consider using a VPN or a dedicated network segment for your jump hosts. This adds another layer of separation between your internal network and external intermediaries. And here's a tip that applies to both methods. Always use SSH keys with passphrases and never share them. Keys are meant to be secret, treat them as such. By following these best practices, you can minimize the risks associated with agent forwarding and proxy jump. But remember, Diya, security is an ongoing process, not a one time fix. Keep your systems up to date, monitor for suspicious activity, and always stay vigilant.
Stay vigilant, stay secure. Wow, Mitesh, you've provided some fantastic configuration best practices. I'm sure our listeners will appreciate these tips to minimize the risks associated with both agent forwarding and proxy jump. It sounds like with agent forwarding, we need to be careful about who has access to our local agent and use SSH keys with passphrases to add an extra layer of security. And with proxy jump, choosing trusted jump hosts is crucial, as well as using timeouts and retries to prevent getting stuck in an infinite loop. I love your final tip though, always using SSH keys with passphrases. It's a simple yet effective way to keep those keys secret. Well, it looks like we're running out of time for today's episode. But before we wrap up, I have one more question. What advice would you give to our listeners who are just starting to explore the world of SSH security and want to implement either agent forwarding or proxy jump in their environments?
Dear, time flies when you are discussing SSH security, doesn't it? Well, I'd be happy to leave our listeners with some parting advice. First and foremost, learn the basics, understand how SSH works, its purpose, and its core concepts. This will help you make informed decisions about when and how to use agent forwarding or proxy jump. Next up, start small. Don't dive headfirst into implementing these methods across your entire environment. Begin with a few trusted servers or a controlled testing environment to get the hang of things. When you are ready to roll out these techniques more widely, document everything. Keep detailed records of which servers use agent forwarding or proxy jump, their purposes, and who has access. This will save you headaches down the line if something goes wrong or when onboarding new team members. Now, here's a big one, never stop learning. SSH security is an ever evolving landscape. Stay up to date with best practices, new features, and emerging threats. Follow relevant blogs, attend webinars, and engage in online communities to keep your knowledge sharp. And lastly, trust but verify. Even if you follow all the best practices and configure everything correctly, things can still go wrong. Regularly review your SSH logs, monitor for unusual activity, and don't be afraid to double check your configuration.
Thanks for the wisdom, Mitesh. Wow, Mitesh, you've left us with some fantastic advice. I'm sure our listeners will appreciate these tips as they navigate the world of SSH security. It's great that you emphasize learning the basics first and starting small too. It's so important to test and refine our approaches before rolling them out across the entire environment. And document. You're right on point there. Having clear records will make a huge difference in troubleshooting and onboarding new team members. Your final point about never stopping learning really resonates. SSH security is an ongoing process, and staying up to date with best practices and emerging threats is crucial. Trust but verify. What a great way to summarize it all. Regularly reviewing logs and monitoring for unusual activity will help us stay one step ahead of potential issues. Well, that's all the time we have for today's episode. Thank you so much, Mitesh, for sharing your expertise with us. To our listeners, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to Secure Connections Uncovered for more episodes on SSH security and beyond.
Mitesh. Why, thank you, Diya. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you today, and I am thrilled that we could share some insights to help others navigate the sometimes tricky world of SSH security. Diya, we couldn't have asked for a better guest. Your wisdom and passion really shine through, Mitesh. Ah, shucks, you are too kind, but in all seriousness, Diya, I am always here if you or your listeners need more guidance. Remember, everyone's on this learning journey together. Diya, that's the spirit we love to hear. And with that, it's time for us to sign off. Stay safe out there, everyone, and happy learning. Mitesh. Until next time, Diya, happy securing.
And that's a wrap. And that's all for today's episode of Secure Connections Uncovered. I'd like to extend a huge thank you to Mitesh for joining us and sharing his expertise on agent forwarding versus proxy jump, security trade offs you need to know. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to subscribe to our podcast for more episodes on SSH security and beyond. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like to discuss, feel free to reach out to us on social media or through our website. Until next time, stay secure and keep those connections safe.